to Doxxed, the podcast.
On today's episode, our spotlight shines on Tana Mongeau, a magnetic force in the realm of social media, renowned for her audacious flair and unapologetic storytelling. But what are the consequences when an already controversial figure wields the power of her platform to inflict harm on everyday people? As a seasoned influencer with a long history of controversial content, it's no wonder Tana's podcast is simply called Cancelled. But one anecdote she shared on air, about a wine tour she took on her recent trip to Europe, has ignited another firestorm. A seemingly innocuous clash with the tour guide resulted in Tana doxing the woman, plunging them both into a maelstrom of criticism and chaos. The storm that has ensued raises a compelling question. What happens when an influencer stands on the periphery of cancel culture, seemingly unassailable, yet continually brandishes their platform to harm others? Can some people truly evade the weight of accountability? Join us as we unravel this modern tale, exploring the shadows that linger behind even the most vibrant online personas. In a world where cancellation might not be an option, our inquiry delves into the very essence of accountability, as we set our gaze on the rights and responsibilities wielded by those who command the hearts and screens of countless followers.
What was the question? What have you discovered in my deep dive? What have I discovered? First of all, I never saw the last name Mojo spelled. I thought it was Mojo. So that was the first one.
It's French.
Until like today. Oh, so, okay. So, I mean, yeah, this whole situation took place in France. She went on a wine tour and was hanging out with a guy that flew her there and some other people, and basically just doxed the person who had been giving the tour and told a nasty story, and was pretty intentionally being malicious about it, and sent a lot of people after this woman who got like fake reviews, the whole 9 yards. We're familiar with that whole the shenanigans. But then there was some backlash because there's always like two sides to every story, I guess, is the tagline of this entire saga. But I don't know much about Tana Mongeau other than she was exes with Jake Paul. Is that right? All these people I never ever watched.
Yeah, she has a lot of kind of famous exes. She dated Lil Xan, which
Who's
is
that?
a rapper.
Oh, okay.
A terrible rapper. And she dated Bella Thorne for a while. She also dated Jake Paul, and I think that was just a publicity stunt. I don't think it was like an actual relationship. They got married for clout. It wasn't an actual wedding. Like, paperwork wasn't actually filed or anything like that. It was just like a pay-per-view live stream event wedding. Like, she's kind of a YouTube shit show. I learned about Tana Mongeau a couple years ago when I think she either wasn't invited to VidCon or had gone to a VidCon and thought it like wasn't cool enough for her. So she hosted TanaCon during the same weekend and hired an event planner to help plan it out for her. She oversold tickets, didn't have enough security, was well over capacity, like within the hotel that it was held. There's way too many people, so it was a safety issue. She oversold like general admission and VIP tickets, but like everything was general admission. Like general was free, like selling free tickets, but then there was like VIP tickets that people paid a lot of money for, but the VIP people weren't VIP at all. There was no like special treatment for them at all.
Oh.
There was nothing extra for them at all. And the biggest thing was that there were so many people that, like, I think a couple thousand maybe were just waiting in line outside in the parking lot in the sun with no shade. There were paramedics that had to come. to carry people out because they're
no.
getting heat stroke, they're getting third-degree sunburns. Like it was bad, bad. Like her career was pretty much almost over at that
Oh,
point because it was
when was
so
that?
terrible. This
Like, what
was,
year was that?
I want to say it was like 2017 or 2018. Don't quote me on it, but it was like recent, but not.
Okay.
And that was a huge thing. I don't know how she recovered from that and like still has a career, but like people flew from all over the country just to meet her. And like I think after like maybe a couple of hours at Tanagon, like she left. Like she wasn't even there after a while. So people were just like lined up outside waiting to meet her, dying in the sun, and like at some point she wasn't even
Oh,
fucking there. She has a history of saying the N-word, like hard ER
zero.
N-word, because she kind of thought like she was down and she could say that, and like no one really pushed back on her. And a lot of the narrative around that was like, oh, it was just a different time. Again, this isn't
Nope.
1932. It's like
That's like a whole
maybe
YouTube thing.
15.
All these YouTube people thought it was a different time for some reason. What time were you in? Everyone on
It
YouTube
was,
in that whole era, because it
it
was
was
now. It was the
literally
time to know that it
this
was not
lifetime.
very bizarre.
Like it
Sounds
wasn't the
like a
civil
terrible
rights
event
fucking
management.
era. It was literally a couple years ago. Like, stop.
Yeah.
So she is one of, in my opinion, one of the most problematic YouTubers out there. And she kind of had this weird redemption arc a couple years ago. She's made many an apology video, none as bad as Colleen Ballinger, but there's a series of apology videos because she just keeps fucking up and she's terrible. But she kind of calmed down, is doing this podcast thing where she seems to kind of get it sometimes. Like she seems like she's grown and she's kind of cool. But then this whole thing happened with the wine tour that she paid for and agreed to go on and went on, but then decided to complain that I don't even know why she was I don't know what her issue was, but she did like an hour-long podcast episode about this wine tour that she agreed to go on and paid for and got the full itinerary before she even went, and then decided to like lie and complain about it and villainize this small business owner who, after reading the website of the wine tour lady, she seems like very committed to educating people on like the whole wine culture and promoting wineries owned by women. Like
Yeah,
she
she's in
seems
all kinds of like community. I
cool.
kind of checked her out too, and she seems like she's in a bunch of different communities. She's won all kind of. She has like different. She's recognized and renowned,
Yeah.
and cares a lot about it. Yeah,
Seemed
I
like she was held hostage on a wine tour and was dragged for miles through wine country on foot in high heels. And it's like, no, you were literally on a train, a beautiful train ride through the French countryside. Like, relax. Like, it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, well, some of it sounded like miscommunications, or she was having a bad day. She had some kind of a hangover, maybe. But she says it so maliciously. Like, and also I had a hard time finding the full clip because I went and tried to watch, and the podcast was from her, or the episode was from her podcast canceled about 2 weeks ago. It came out just talking about her whole trip to Europe and the what do I want to say? They have cut out that part from the podcast. So I watched it through and was like waiting for it because she's totally ratioed in the comments. And all the comments are like, this is a terrible story. And but it's not anywhere in there. But I've seen clips of it. And she's so like wrathful about how she's saying the name. She like wrote it down in her phone. Actually, do you want me to, maybe we could play that for a second? Does that sound
Yeah,
good? Okay, hold
yeah.
on. I found it in the H3 podcast. It had it. So it's just the one
I
because you
watched
can
it
hear it in her
through
voice.
Adam McIntyre watched the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, I saw that too. But yeah, just this little like listen to the tone.
Cynthia. I wrote it down. Let me make sure it's fucking Cynthia. Cynthia. Cynthia.
That's her name.
Cynthia.
Can we cut to me
Cynthia!
for 1 second?
Like just the wrath.
I mean, I don't understand what this woman did to Tana, who paid for the wine tour and agreed to go on it, and this woman was literally just doing her job. And even listening to Tana's recounting of her interaction with that woman, even if you only believe Tana's side, this woman didn't do anything but do her job.
Yeah, like what do you say? Because people then were like fake reviewing who had never been on the tour, which has happened to you, to us, and
Yep.
and it's really, I don't think people understand how damaging that can be when you're just in a horde of people doing stuff, not thinking about it. And this poor woman, and I did check and I looked today on the reviews and it looks like they're cleaned up, so good for her. And they should be, ew, and
I
then it
mean,
looks like they took that chunk out of the podcast.
reviews should be verified. If you're not a verified purchaser of someone's service, you should not be able to just leave a review, good or bad. Like, let's be real. To sway a rating, good or bad, when you haven't patronized the business or you don't know the owner personally, you know nothing about it, you shouldn't be reviewing it.
No, yeah, it's really irresponsible. So, and I think you made a point, we were talking about this earlier, that Tana's been around long enough that she should understand the impact of doing something like that. And it even sounded to me like in the podcast, like her friend that she's talking to was kind of saying, like, yeah, well, you tend to embellish stories, she must
That's her
know that that
thing.
can be damaging, and it's just for kind of the drama.
Well, Tana's rise to fame started when she was pretty young. I don't know for sure. I want to say she was like 14 or 15. Like she was little when she started on YouTube. And her whole rise to fame was due to her storytelling. And I feel like people that tell stories in the style that Tana does, like, it doesn't always seem like it's true. Like, how is your life so dramatic all the time? Everything you do is just so much drama. She's telling a story, but it's kind of shitty when that story involves absolutely pulverizing someone on social media because you have millions upon millions of followers that'll just do that just because. Like, she did not have to say this woman's name. She did not have to put the business on blast. She also did not have to go on the wine tour. If you're too hungover to, walk through a vineyard, then don't go. Just don't go. Like, it's not this tour guide's person's fault that you drank too much the night before. Just don't fucking go.
And I think she must just also know, because in the rest of that same podcast episode, the other thing that struck me is that she tells a story about having a stalker that she's been dealing with for a while. And she says, it's so sad how little the police care. And like, I know, right? Why would you put people in danger then? And,
Right.
because think about how somebody doesn't have protections like you do, and who knows what you could send after them, especially when you're just characterizing them some way.
Yeah, imagine someone that doesn't collect millions of dollars in fucking YouTube AdSense every month and
Exactly.
depends on customers for their livelihood, and you disrupt that just because you were having a bad day. It's so irresponsible. If you have a huge platform, I feel like you have to have some common fucking sense. You have to like have some kind of sense of responsibility to not directly cause harm to people.
And if you don't, expect to be like called out, or expect to be for somebody to at least try to hold you accountable, because uh because that is when it gets into the real world. It's not in the real world when you're just bickering online or whatever. But yeah, when you affect people's income, that's a big deal. Mental health is a big deal too, I think, but income
Mhm.
is a big deal too.
You know what this reminds me of, this Tana situation?
But
This reminds me so much of Demi Lovato and the Froyo place. Do you remember that story from a couple years ago?
the Froyo place. Did she dox a Froyo place?
Well, I don't think no, you can't really like dox a business. I get no, you can't dox a business. But the story is that she has this long history of like different types of addiction and eating disorders.
Okay.
And she walked into a frozen yogurt place, and they have their big menu board, and then they have other signs for like specials and new flavors and stuff. And one of their signs was for like a sugar-free froyo that they were rolling out.
Okay.
And she said that that triggered her, and that it was insensitive to like promote diet culture because it triggered her ED, and it can trigger everyone's ED. And I'm like, wait a minute. There are diabetic people that go for sugar-free options.
Yeah.
They're like, there's all kinds of reasons people go for sugar-free options. And it's not promoting diet culture, it's promoting a froyo flavor. And she went on this long rant. She's super famous, and all these people attacked the froyo place for promoting diet culture because they had a sugar-free froyo.
I mean, that's disappointing.
It's stupid.
You can have things that are sugar-free and not even low calorie.
Yeah. Sugar-free doesn't mean carb-free. Sugar-free doesn't mean fat-free.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's I mean, but I don't know. I guess yeah, business is a different thing than a person, but what are you holding people accountable for?
It's like
And it's
it's
just
it's the entitlement of some of these influencers and celebrities to think the entire world revolves around them, that you can go on a wine tour and be mad that it was a wine tour, basically, or to walk into a froyo place and be mad that they have a flavor that you don't like. What?
also, does Tana not own or is involved with a wine company?
Who even knows? She has her hands in a lot of shit.
I believe I heard that. I'll put it in the sources if I can find it. I think I heard that on one of the commentary videos. But I'm not sure why you wouldn't just, yeah, they were all making fun of, like, her friend was like, why would you go on a tour that would be educational? Like,
Oh yeah, because the tour guide asked them, do you want a fun
yeah,
wine tour? Do you want an educational wine tour? Which I would only go on a wine tour because I wanted to learn about something. If I want to have fun, I'll just go to a bar. Like,
yeah.
that.
Or yeah, I mean, or just go drink. Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, it just sounds like a lot of the anger directed at the wine tour lady also just had to do with, like, I don't know, felt kind of classist to me. Classist undertones. We'll say that.
Oh, classist overtones,
Okay,
in
classist
my
fair. Felt if it had it was giving classist.
as someone who has owned a business that can be publicly reviewed, my livelihood depended on good reviews on Google. Like I had a whole brick and mortar thing for years that I don't know if everyone experienced this, but like as a solo owner operator for a while before I started hiring staff, I was always worried that I was going to step on someone's toes or say the wrong thing, or someone would just be unhappy with me or just having a bad day and decide to just trash my business online. And luckily, like after like 5 years in business, I was like the top rated lash studio in the city that I was in. I had over 100 reviews, and they were all 5 star on Google. And the only time I ever got a bad review for my business is when an employee wasn't great. And even then, like I reached out to that client and I made it right, and she deleted the review and then reviewed me personally well on Google. But like that was,
Oh,
I panicked so bad getting a bad review. And it shouldn't matter that much, but those reviews live there forever.
yeah,
And some people take online reviews really seriously when they're considering going somewhere or doing something. Some people specifically look for the bad reviews and decide whether or not they're going to patron a business based on what the bad reviews say, which I think is kind of weird. Like my ex-boyfriend, he only looked at the bad reviews. I'm like, well, that's what some people just leave reviews. Some people only leave bad reviews.
People
Like,
do. I always feel like I click in and I look at the top reviews and then I look at like one or two bad reviews, but I always kind of keep in mind that it's like probably it's often reflecting more on the person, unless it's like where most of the reviews are bad or something, you know?
yeah, yeah. Like some people only leave a review for the business if they have a bad experience.
Yeah. I'm lucky because I run an Airbnb, and so my reviews are only available to people if they have stayed at the Airbnb, which saved me
Hmm.
from a lot of the bad review shitstorm that happened to us,
Oh
to
yeah,
you,
'cause
and
if
to other
that was
people.
available to the trolls, like your Airbnb, if they were able to review it, like it would have been absolutely trashed. Absolutely
Yeah,
trashed.
which is very it's just wrong, you know? And it happened to other people, obviously, and it happens to other people like in this situation. And then, I do think you're right. It should be like verified. And I think that Yelp does a decent job. You can definitely, if your Yelp is getting attacked or whatever, you can definitely make moves to get false reviews down. But it has to do with like determining that it was not telling a truth about the experience of the whatever service or product that you're offering. Uh,
Mhm.
and I guess sometimes if somebody cleverly enough reviews, that might be harder. Sometimes that these trolls will just really be obvious though. So there's that.
More than half of the bad reviews on my book, because of this situation, are from people that never read it. They're just like
Yeah,
reviewing
exactly.
me as a person.
Exactly, exactly.
Like, God.
Exactly. So, but there should be more, there's not a lot of legal recourse, which can be very, very frustrating. And I actually wanted to like return to also the question of being doxxed and what does that mean when we say it? Because I know we talked about it in the first season, but we did at some point when we were just starting up this podcast. One of the things that I made as just like a material for our community that we are building was this doxed survival guide. And basically, it's just like a PDF that is a good, handy resource for if you get doxed. And what does doxed mean? I kind of lay it out. We laid it out in this document in addition to like steps to take if you've just been doxed. But there's this quote from a blog of a lawyer named David Lindsay that I put in here that I want to like return to that just says, according to cybercrimes experts, the line between legal doxing and criminal doxing is actually quite clear. Any information obtained cannot be used for financial gain, nor can you use the information to impersonate someone. And if you access the information through illegal means, you've committed a crime, and all actions that follow are also crimes. Posting personal information obtained legally in and of itself is perfectly legal. So that can be so disappointing, ranging into kind of terrifying, because that leaves people in a situation of that means if your information was ever public in any way. So, for example, my name from my Facebook, which has never been associated with my TikTok, was of course dragged in and is used all the time in a manner to harass me. And that's, to me, I consider that doxing because it's intended to collect my information and then publish it and then use that to shame me or embarrass me or hurt my income or my business. Um, and it's a kind of like social engineering. And I think that that is all completely tied into that. But then you get to this question of like, okay, what do we do about it legally? Not much,
Mhm.
unless the person either obtained it illegally, like hacked into your system in order to get your name, which is not what happened, right? Like mostly if somebody's real name gets dragged into government name gets dragged into something, then that is because of course your government name is out there. We've seen very wealthy people who were unable to completely scrub their identities from the internet despite maybe wanting
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
Very, you really can't. Elon Musk got doxxed or whatever. Like, you can't really scrub yourself. I mean, you can do a decent job, but then what is left to protect you if somebody's going to try to use this stuff against you? Not like there's a big disparity there, basically, is what I'm saying. There's not a lot of recourse, and then you're just kind of left high and dry. Like, what do you do? And that's part of why we put this like PDF together. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of times like a troll response to talking about this situation like doxing as well. It's not technically legally doxing because, you know, she had a public business page and she had her name all across things and it was easy to find her and all that. And like, to me, it's just, I don't know, it's a moot point. It's just not
Yeah, I mean,
related to the
yeah, it's
question at
easy.
hand. Is it
It's
harmful?
easy to
Yes.
find her. It's easy to find her. What are you looking for her for? Why are you looking?
You're harassing and harming someone. That is the problem. The problem is not whether it was technically legal and you hacked them or you just brought their information into a different platform.
Are you tired of feeling unsafe online? Do you want to learn how to protect yourself from cyberbullying, doxing, and other forms of online harassment? Then look no further than Doxxed the Podcast. Visit the website doxxedthepodcast.com to sign up for the Doxxed free ebook full of helpful tips and resources for online safety. Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive the weekly newsletter with the latest updates on upcoming content. There are many ways to connect with Doxxed, including Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Discord. Have a story to share or feedback to give? Use the contact form on the site to reach out or leave a voice message to be featured on the show. And for exclusive content, subscribe to the Doxxed Supercast to gain access to the private podcast feed with member-only exclusives. Take control of your online safety and join the Doxxed community today.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how easy their information is to find. Everyone's information is easy to find. It's the malicious intent behind lifting that information and using it in another place on another platform that that person didn't consent to. That's a problem.
Exactly. And it does not invalidate that it's a problem just because a lot of times people can't do something legally about it.
Right.
So, and I have no idea what she can do legally about it, although probably the extent of that would be something like a cease and desist to get Tana to take down that part of the podcast, which she did. I haven't seen this woman speak out in like any kind of news publication yet.
So I mean, I don't know if Tana took it out of the podcast episode due to the lady asking her to.
Oh yeah, she might have just wanted to take it out. Like I don't know that it was that, but I'm just saying, like, what else would you do then if she did take it out? Like you have more of a case to maybe get restitution or something if she won't take it out, and you're trying to send cease and desist, and she's not responding, or she's laughing at the cease and desist. But like she took it out. So, like, what are you gonna do?
That's another thing. Like with C&Ds, there's this big misconception that C&Ds are legal documents that have teeth behind it. No, it's a written warning that has nothing to do with a court, a judge, a lawyer. Like you can write in C&D and send it to anybody, but it's just a warning that means literally nothing unless you're willing to file something in court. You can handwrite a C&D and send it to someone. It doesn't mean shit unless you're willing to sue that person and obtain a lawyer, go to court, file something, have a court date, go to a hearing, pay for all of that.
Yeah.
Also, when you're dealing with a YouTuber that's a millionaire, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to sue them? Probably not. You can send them a C&D, but they can also wipe their ass with it unless you're willing to, like, back up with what you're saying in court, and it's expensive to do that.
Well, yeah, and again, at this point, like she took it out of the podcast, whatever the reason, it's not even in there anymore. But the damage is done. Say again?
We said at the same time, the damage is done.
Oh yeah, yeah, the damage is done. Like I found her name easily. I did not have to. I bet it was 3-4 clicks total to find her Facebook, to find her wine page, because it was in a news article that was reporting on this and just gave her name and a link to it all. Like, it's all there anyway, And at least good now the narrative is turning and a lot of people are now commentating on Tana and kind of setting the record straight. So maybe if she wants, in terms of like the social response to this, if it's affecting her business in some way. My cat just walked across the room. Do your cats ever hold their toys in their mouth like they caught something? And
yeah,
he's just holding.
I have one of those like wand feather things
Yes.
and they'll hold on to the feather piece and like drag the whole wand behind them across the
Exactly.
floor.
Mine did that too. I had to take the stick off because he was like sounding like a ghoul in the middle of the night, and I have Airbnb guests, and he was like dragging this stick down the stairs. Anyway, sorry. Distracted by my cat at all times. Yeah, people are commentating now on her and kind of setting the record straight. So socially, that's kind of nice when people do respond and kind of speak up about how maybe the story wasn't right in the first place. Because then if she has somebody that comes to her business and is like, hey, why did I hear some horrible thing? At least she can kind of point to somebody else that has, maybe, I don't know, equal social, whatever, some level of like big equal social clout, and can say, look, like here's the real story, or here's my side or something. And I think that makes it a little bit easier if people care enough. But I don't know, usually it's kind of stark and surprising how much these online spaces don't intersect with real life, actually. Like,
Yeah.
I bet that she probably had a crazy week, and then I bet that she's probably going to move on with her life and it'll be okay. It's still not okay what Tana did at all. Have some tact and responsibility. But, it's surprising how much it might actually not affect you if you just kind of like don't make it a part of your like consciousness. I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to not make it a part of your consciousness when it's like a huge tsunami of people that hear one side of something and immediately like feverishly start searching you up and searching up your business and where can I leave 10
Yeah.
reviews? How
I
many
mean, that's
platforms can I
scary.
review? But
That's
all
very
it took,
scary.
like watching Adam McIntyre's watch through of that part of the podcast,
Yeah.
he really went to the woman's like wine tour website and her itinerary, it's the same itinerary for every wine tour. It's one itinerary and you can see where all the stops are. From this time to this time, we do this. And from this time to this time, we do that. And Tana was like, we spent 8 hours doing this one thing and we had to walk 7 miles doing that. And it was like absolutely not true. It's verifiable. If only, you know, Tana's followers that immediately attacked this woman, if they scrubbed two brain cells together to just do a little bit of due diligence, just a little bit, as they're looking up this woman's business, bypassing all the information that's right there, they could have seen, like, this doesn't really add up to what Tana's saying. Like, it's not, it didn't take a huge amount of effort to just read the website versus just go to the place where you can review it, you know?
Yeah, damn. Fact checked by Adam McIntyre. Not what you want.
No.
No. What was I
It's
gonna
really
say?
sad. It's hard to be a small business owner and then you get, let's say you get like a big influencer celebrity to come to your business and then they destroy it to go from the excitement of like, oh, this celebrity person's here and like this is my chance to really wow
Yeah, I
them
mean
and
that's
put my business on
devastating.
the map.
And it could have,
Yeah.
and it's sad because yeah, if she had reviewed it positively, then she could have gotten a big boon to her business too. And I mean, it is devastating, and also like especially when it affects your bottom line. Jesus, like that's scary. And
Mhm.
people have every right to experience an effect on their mental health. Um, I just think it also feels like the entire world is, and then all these people are so shallow and they don't care about you either way. And so they spend their 5 seconds doing their crappy review or whatever. And I guess, and if the record isn't set straight and somebody isn't allowed to speak out or like have their side of the story kind of out there and available, there's also definitely a chance people can just like start to upset, like people that are sick can start to fixate, and
Mhm.
that can be bad. But like in a situation like this where then everybody kind of speaks up in reaction and is like, no, Tana, that was disgusting and she went too far. I think that allows it to kind of pass. Like it's a terrifying tsunami of a thing. And I do think that in some cases, yeah, when you lose a lot of income, especially, or when you're harmed, if somebody comes after you, like
Mhm.
yeah, that's very serious then.
Or
But
you're dealing with the threat of someone coming after you.
yeah, I mean, threats are really, they mess with your mind. They mess with your mind, and people make them so flippantly. They really do, and they can stay in your mind for the rest of your life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these people are so much more aggressive and violent under the anonymity. And that's what makes them act so brave. They would not come, and not like a guarantee that you're not going to get hurt. People get hurt from these kind of things, but like but you have they're not coming after you because they're cowards, and they're also very shallow, and they also need a rush, and they're projecting their kind of need of a rush. And so if they don't get one from a situation, it dries up for them and they move on. And then you kind of are left with the aftermath.
Unless you confront them, and they'll always be the ones to say, "Oh, nobody cares. Nobody cares about
Oh,
you. Why would I
absolutely.
care about you?" Like your number one stalkers are going to be the ones to tell you to your face, "I don't even care about you."
Nobody stalks you. You're not special enough to be stalked.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. While also showing like the actual proof of you being stalked on their green screen. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well. And then also just like again the comment boundary. Anyway, that's a whole other. Like if you were in my comment section, you are the one being harassed. That's just how it works.
It's literally how it works.
How it works. But anyway. I just think that it's like it just really struck me that Tana was talking about having a stalker, because that you have to understand how big of a deal it is then when you're afraid of people coming after you. And then just to be so like mad and hatefully saying this name, like you knew what you were doing. Why?
Well, she's also, again, one of the most problematic people on YouTube and has been for a long time. She's no stranger to backlash and being canceled to the point where her podcast is
Yeah, her
called
podcast is
Canceled.
her podcast is titled
So
Canceled.
she probably doesn't like it. Being canceled doesn't phase her. Getting backlash doesn't
Sure.
really phase her because she recovers from it really quick. She's still a millionaire. She still gets brand deals. It doesn't matter. So maybe she has no concept of like, oh, if this person has a bad month, their business is done. They could lose their home. They'll go into debt. Like maybe she's so lost in the sauce of being rich that she just can't like think about anybody else outside of herself.
Maybe. Well, I thought I had read, and I was right, that there was an article that she got dropped by a sponsor, but I just clicked in and I didn't even realize she said that I think that I heard her say this, but didn't quite make the connection because I was listening in the full podcast and it must have been like mostly clipped out or something. She said that she wanted the wine expert dead.
What?
And is that really what it said? I'm on something called Dexter2.com. Who knows? But that's the top Google result. Yeah, but there's NBC News says it too. So yeah. A famous YouTuber is under fire for sharing her negative experience at a wine tour, but the tour guide says she wasn't telling the full truth. And I think it was in DMs. Like, I think they went back and forth. Hold on, I'm just scrolling. I'm just reading through really quick because I thought that I heard her say that, but I was confused about whether she was saying that about somebody else or not because of the way that the episode was cut. But oh, I guess that this must have been a part that got cut out that they didn't. But anyway, so the article said this is NBC News. It says Mongeau then started yelling on the podcast, "We paid you, and I don't want to learn about fertilization of grass in the middle of France in a town with a population of 300 at 8:40 a.m. After I just walked a mile and a half and there's yet to be a glass of wine in my hand." Mongeau also repeatedly expressed wanting to physically fight, curb stomp, and even kill the tour guide. I absolutely want her dead at the hands of me, Mongeau said during the episode. When Mongeau read an advertisement for one of the podcast sponsors, the language learning platform Babbel, she included the line, "And with Babbel, I could have told Cynthia, the wine tour lady, to shut the F up about her native language," or in her native language. So anyway, I thought that she did. I thought that I knew that, but then I was confused. So anyway, we buried the lead a little bit there. That's pretty awful, Tana. Um,
Jeez.
you really shouldn't
Because
say
you
that
didn't want
because
to
what she was
walk
saying on
hungover?
what? Sorry.
I said all that because you didn't want to walk hungover?
Well, yeah,
Jeez.
and I remember this from the podcast, but again, like they clipped it, so I was confused. But she said to her friend that she has a problem with when she gets angry, she will often tell people that she wants them to die. And even her friend kind of just calls it out and is like, yeah, that's not like, I forget exactly what she says, but she's like, that's not the best thing to do. Like, we know that that's not quite right. But she like said it in anger. And like, is Tana Mojo going to then come to your house and curb stomp you? Actually, probably not. If she does, you could definitely do something about that with the law. But it's just kind of like that's still very violent to say to people. And then there's just kind of no legal recourse because of a lot of reasons. Because it just doesn't meet the threshold. Does that mean it's not scary and upsetting? Really upsetting? I would be very upset to be told something like that. You're a wine tour lady in France in your
I mean,
50s.
we were told something
We
like
were, oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm just dissociating all about that, about our situation right now. Is all. But no, yeah, like it is scary. And then you're like, oh my God, what do I do? And then no, no, no. You just go live your life still while somebody tells you they want you to be dead all the time. It's just, it's not the best. It's not the best. It's irresponsible on the part of the creators that are weaponizing their platforms. You're weaponizing your platform and your toxic following. And once again, when you're a toxic person at the head of a large platform, your following, the dynamic of the following is going to be like a mirror reflection of you. And it says a lot about people when they send their followings to leave bad reviews on websites like that. And and then you can take a look at like what are you holding people accountable for? You can arguably agree with the means to the end argument for some platforms, but like when the judge is just this mass of people,
Mm-hmm.
what is the accountability for? What
Yeah.
is the responsibility to meet some kind of a threshold of needing to do accountability? And then yet like the law doesn't take care of it. There's kind of it's just this like twofold, like there's nothing that meets in the middle in a way that actually is workable. The whole thing is really dangerous. So I don't know.
Yeah, the internet is not safe.
No, not safe. I mean, I do think like more private spaces on the internet can be safer, or more intentionally built circles and communities can be safer, but no. This entire influencer game is kind of a dangerous game. It's
It's kind
not.
of a gross game,
Oh, it's
honestly.
super. I mean, everything is gross. You know what? I think it really just comes back to like capitalism, colonization, white supremacy. Everything, it makes it, everything in the whole, it just gets so gross because of all of that. And like, it's no different. But it's bedazzling. It's like a very enticing kind of a fantasy to be an influencer and live an influencer life and be an aspirational content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And also some businesses kind of have to do it or are positioned where that's, what they're doing for their business and it's for some other good. But it's so dangerous and so many people get so much power without having any idea how it works or what to do with it or how to be responsible for it. And or don't care. Like people like how you're describing Tana, and I think a lot of people like you can't really be canceled if your audience doesn't it doesn't feel betrayed. That's the big thing. So if she has already built this audience that doesn't care if she says problematic shit and does problematic shit and will still go, it was fun. She did get pretty ratioed in that in that podcast comments. But if your audience doesn't feel betrayed, you're not going anywhere. You're
Right.
going right back. You're still just a problem. You're a social terror, and it doesn't nothing to do about it except for people try to use their voices, but
Mm. Well, I am not a fan of Tana
not a fan.
at all, especially after this. Well, especially after the N word several
Yeah, that's
times.
that's a bad one. That's a no. I don't really understand that entire culture of YouTube. Like, they all were doing blackface and hard R N-word nonsense. And I don't understand in what universe someone thought it was the time. Like, where did that culture come from, and why?
Like, why was it a whole era? Why was it a whole era, and why do they look back on it like it was like
Different time. It wasn't
the
though.
Cretaceous period? It was
was
literally
different
5 years
time though.
ago.
It truly was not a different time. Like, it was just that YouTube, you really could get pushed in the thing that was different about it was YouTube was more likely to push alt-right crap in the algorithm. That was the difference.
Ugh, gross.
It is gross.
Well, if you own a business, don't sell to influencers. It just seems like a bad idea.
Or vet the influencers, maybe.
I don't know. It's a dangerous game that these influencer people are playing for content. Like, they will literally run you over with a bus for some content, for something to talk about.
Yeah. I don't know. I struggle to identify with Tana's audience too, because that podcast is just so, like, people call our podcast boring, and I'm like, then don't listen. But also, like, I find her podcast, honestly, no offense, I don't know, offense. I find it kind of boring. Like, what, like, there's not any insight. It's just sort of like, I mean, I guess you said she gets famous for telling stories, and people like to just feel like they have kind of a friend, but that felt like two friends that talk about each other behind their backs all the time or something. Like, I guess she was the one friend, she was kind of telling her to her face a lot that she was shitty, but like, I don't get it.
Those two women were not friends. Like, they were enemies at some point. So you're right.
It felt like they were either enemies or going to be enemies at some point in the future. And I guess that's like a whole, people like drama. People like drama. And that's okay. But it's just not, what else is there? Like, what else is that content? To me, I don't get it. And it doesn't mean it can't exist, but it's just, I don't identify with caring about these stories, you know?
Yeah, I think some people get some kind of kick out of living vicariously through her because she just kind of moves through life without a care in the world. And she's wealthy and she parties a lot and she's like conventionally attractive. And people, especially younger people, kind of want to just live that lifestyle that she lives. So maybe it's appealing to hear about it in podcast form, especially if you're a longtime fan of Tana, because she's been around for a minute. She's been around for a long time.
That makes sense. Well, I don't know. Best wishes to this wine lady. She seems pretty cool from all of her entire, like, everything I've seen of her kind of public facing persona. I hope that business thrives.
Yeah. From what I've heard, the way she educates people that go on the wine tour about women-owned wineries, that's like 10 out of 10. That alone is cool to me. But that's her focus.
Yeah. Yeah. And the world is cruel. People should just let people do what they love to do if it's not hurting people. That's just what you should do.
Yeah, the world can be pretty casually everyday cruel, and it's weird. I don't like it.
No, except for sometimes it's okay and good things happen, such as Donald Trump got he did not, I guess he didn't go to jail today, but he booked himself he surrendered at Fulton County Jail. And then he will be going to prison. So sometimes good things happen in the world.
I will not believe it until I see him in an orange jumpsuit in a prison cafeteria. I will not believe it until I see it.
Well, I've personally been patient about this since like 2015, so I think we can wait another.
So long.
I know. But it does feel like, you know, sometimes you don't think there's ever going to be justice, and then sometimes there's a little bone. A little justice bone. Also, speaking of a justice bone, Johnny Silvestri episode from last week, 700 views in the first day.
That's wild.
I'm pretty excited about it. I think I'm very proud of us. We're growing for sure. And we have checking we have 100
Story.
we have 107 subscribers on YouTube. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so I am just so proud of us. And I just wanted to take a moment to say also thank you to everybody that has been listening and supporting, especially the people that have been listening and supporting from the beginning. But as more people tune in, thank you for being here. And this is so cool and exciting to be able to, I don't know, it's been a relatively very short time since we started this, but we have a lot of content out, and I'm just so proud of all of it, and I'm proud of us, and I'm proud that we're growing, and I'm so excited for what's next for this project, because I love that we have put this out into the world. I think it's such a good thing. And I just wanted to tell you that news because I was excited about it.
Thank you for listening. Find additional content at doxxedthepodcast.com.